Hi, my name is Nikki Wagner, and today we'll be speaking about capital punishment. In my audience will be Mr. and Mrs. Helmbright. We'll start with the facts about capital punishment. Since 1977, over 1,100 people have been executed in the United States. There are approximately 3,300 that are on death row. There's 35 states that have the death row and 15 states that no longer have the death penalty. Capital punishment is a very controversial subject. The state is pretty much split with the people on how much, who wants to continue with capital punishment and who doesn't. So we'll briefly go over the pros and the cons. We'll start with the cons. And people feel that it is a cruel and inhumane thing to do to kill another human being, and we don't have the right to kill another person. They also feel there's a lot of religious groups that do not believe in killing. They do not believe whatever the crime is, that somebody should be put to death. Also, there's a cost factor. It is extremely expensive to house an inmate on death row. It's 3 times more expensive than it is to house an inmate for life than it is for death row, and that's because of all the appeals that they're allowed to go through. And also, a person wrongly being convicted and sentenced to death. With that being said, that happened a lot in the 70s. We now have DNA, which can prove if someone was present or not, which eliminates the wrongful person being sentenced to death. So we'll talk about the pros. The pros to capital punishment is the obvious, that they cannot commit murder again. We don't have to worry about them being released from prison even though they're sentenced to a life prison without parole, because the law has changed. The law has changed on an everyday basis. Prisoners have been released from prison that have done these heinous crimes and killed again. And they escaped, killed again. Another pro is it gives closure to the family of the victim. It gives them closure that that justice has been served. When you talk about capital punishment, it's a very small group of criminals that are put to death. It's very rare. There's aggravating circumstances to the crime. You just don't go out and kill somebody and get the death penalty. You have to do something unthinkable, something that is not of the norm. I mean, these people that do this are sociopaths. They cannot be reformed, and they don't care about it. The capital punishment is not a deterrent to them, whereas it would be a deterrent to me or to you or the average citizen that would not think of something like this. So I'm going to go over a case that has been tried in the state of Florida. It was a high-profile case. It is now, and the suspect ended up getting the sentence to life. This case is Denise Amber Lee is the victim, and the accused, the murderer, is Michael King. On January the 17th of 2008, Denise was in her home with her 2 small children. Her children were under the age of 2. She was in her home. She got someone knocked at her door, and this man that she didn't know was knocking on her door. Held a gun to her, told her he was going to kill her and her children, and she didn't do what he told her to do. He ended up going into, he did allow her to put her 2 children in a crib together and shut the door because her husband was at work at the time, and they left. Denise was able to get his cell phone miraculously somehow, and she made a 911 call saying that she needed help, and she's been basically kidnapped. She was a 6-minute phone call, which I will play for you later. Her husband gets home from work around 3:30. We know that it was around around 2 o'clock he got there because the next door neighbor saw him pull up and saw a green Camaro and said that he's been watching, circling around that neighborhood for the last 5 or 10 minutes. Denise's husband gets there and he, Denise, his 2 children, small children in a crib, in a bedroom with the door shut. He calls the sheriff's office, 911, immediately to find out something happened and why his kids were there. So after some time, he ends up calling her father, and her father ends up calling the sheriff's office. Now at this point, it's been a couple hours, and they've received a 911 call from Denise, where her father had to go identify her voice. What he ends up doing is he has Denise for approximately 4 or 5 hours before he kills her. So he's never met Denise. Denise doesn't know him. The family doesn't know him. He's not even from here. He's from Michigan. So he ends up raping her over and over and over. He sodomizes her, and then he ends up shooting her in the head and then burying her naked. After she's pleaded and pleaded with him to not kill her, which you'll hear. It's rare that we have this type of evidence to where you actually hear their conversations on 911, and she ends up planting her hair for DNA in the back of his seat. She ends up taking her rings off and putting them in the back of his seat. There's been several people that saw her, and we just were always behind them. Law enforcement was always behind them. He went to his cousin, and she was duct taped in the back of his car, and his cousin ended up giving him a shovel and a gas tank, which he ended up calling and later thinking something obviously was wrong. I do not believe that capital punishment is for everybody. I think it's a very small handful of criminals, but I do believe in this. I do feel that this man should definitely seek the penalty, the death penalty. Our concern should not be about the cruelty to what this man may go through. It should be about what this woman had to go through, the victim, and her 2 small children that she'll never get to hold in her arms again. They don't get to know their mother. This is where our focus should be on. Our focus should be on this victim, not on him. So I'm going to play the 911 tape. It's a little bit muffled, but I will recite afterwards what she says. Her 911 call is 6 minutes long, and you can go on YouTube and listen to it. It is public record, along with anything you want to know about this case is online. What she is saying in her 911 call is she says please 17 times. Please let me go. She says, please God, protect me. Please let me see my children again. I won't tell anybody. Please don't hurt me. And she's telling the 911 operator who she is, where she's at, that she's never met this person before, and eventually, after a little over 6 minutes, he ends up realizing that she has his phone, the phone goes dead, and then he goes and buries her, which we find her two days later, buried. So the question is, should the death penalty be still legalized in the state of Florida or the other 35 states? And in my opinion, yes, it should be for cases like this, which are very far and few. I mean, we don't have a lot of cases in the United States that are like this. This is just a heinous crime that is unthinkable, and who we should be focusing on is not the cruelty that Michael Keene is going through, but we should be focusing on what this poor 21-year-old mother, wife, daughter has gone through and her family has gone through. In my opinion, I feel that it should be left up to the victim's family on what they should, if they want to seek the death penalty or not. Some people are strongly about it, and we should follow that. We don't want to cause any more pain on that family, so they should have a say in that. But the wishes were of the family that he got the death penalty, and he was sentenced to it in September 2009. So with that, I know that it's very, very controversial, and a lot of people do not believe in the death penalty, but I think if you put yourself in this position, go on YouTube and listen to the whole 911 tape, it's very rare that we get a 911 call of somebody that right before they get murdered and feel their pain. So very, very sad, very heartbreaking. With that, I hope that you enjoyed the presentation, and I hope everyone has a good evening.